Just over 20 pages. No army, no fortress, no treasure. And yet it made the world tremble. A text banned, burned, hunted. And the more it was forbidden, the faster it spread.
This is the story of the Communist Manifesto and why a thin booklet became something empires feared.
1848. A pamphlet, a spark. In the early 19th century, Europe entered a new machine. That machine was industrialization. It created productivity. It built cities. And it forged a new class, the industrial working class. But industrialization didn't arrive like a promise. It arrived like a fever. People flooded into cities, worked long hours, lived tight. And when economic crisis hit, the fragile parts showed. In cheap taverns, in damp workshops, in dark streets, a simple question started to surface. If we make everything, why do we own nothing? Then came 1848. Europe was a rope pulled tight for too long. Paris, Vienna, Berlin, Milan. Uprisings spread. A springtime of nations. A continent trying to rewrite itself. And in that atmosphere, a text was placed on the table. Not to tell a story, but to call for action. The two men behind it were Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. One, a philosopher and journalist. The other, the son of an industrial family who saw the factory's dark side up close. They didn't write in a castle. They wrote amid arguments, exile, and the loose networks of political activists of their time. And they weren't writing for a wide audience at first. They were writing for an organization, the Communist League. The text had to be short, easy to print, easy to carry, easy to pass hand to hand. A guide for a world already shaking. The manifesto begins with a line designed to trigger a continent's deepest fear, a specter haunting Europe. It's a deliberate opening. It does two things at once. One, it claims the movement is real and spreading. Two, it suggests Europe's powers have already united to crush it. Fear is a sign of presence. The first central claim is blunt. Human history is the history of class struggle. In other words, societies contain opposing interests. Those who own and those who work. Those who write the rules and those who live under them. And when the distance between them grows too wide, conflict becomes the engine of change. The manifesto frames society around two poles: the bourgeoisie, those who own the means of production, and the proletariat, those who have only their labor to sell. This is what made the text feel like a blade. It didn't just say society was unfair. It offered a structure for explaining unfairness. It pointed to who benefits and who pays. The most controversial part often circles one phrase: abolishing private property. But in its original context, it isn't talking about taking every personal item from every person. It targets private ownership of the means of production, the structures that decide who hires, who gets paid, and who keeps the profits. Whether you agree or not, this is why the manifesto became a spark. It questioned ownership at the structural level. And questions like that don't let power sleep. It spread for 3 reasons. 1. It was short. 2. It spoke in declarations, not maybes. 3. It arrived at the exact moment Europe was on fire. The desperate needed language for what they felt. Activists needed a summary they could rally around. And governments needed a target they could blame and crush. To those in power, this wasn't a booklet, it was a signal. When a text teaches people to see society as conflict, unrest becomes explainable. And when it becomes explainable, it becomes organizable. When it becomes organizable, it becomes dangerous. So the reaction was familiar: bans, surveillance, arrests. But history has a common paradox. The more something is forbidden, the more it becomes wanted. The manifesto didn't create the 20th century by itself, but it offered a powerful framework. History through the relationship between power, labor, and ownership. From there, movements and parties found language to justify, to mobilize, to organize. And from there, opposing forces formed too. A century divided by ideology, where a thin booklet could become a flag or an excuse. And that's why this story isn't over. Because the questions it raises still linger. Who creates value? Who owns value? And who gets to write the rules? You can agree, you can reject it, but you can't deny this. Sometimes a text doesn't need to be long. It just needs the right moment and a sharp enough edge to cut into the anxieties of its age. If you want a follow-up episode breaking down the manifesto chapter by chapter or comparing 19th century political ideologies side by side, leave a comment with what you want next. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next Shadow of History.